Well, I want to say first off, I think a lot of videos always talk about the collapse of the dollar. I don't think that's absolutely correct. It's a readjustment of the standard of living of the United States is what's really in the cards. The dollar is going to be our currency in this country for foreseeable future, even if the dollar loses its world reserve currency status. I don't think it's going to. I think it's just that its power is going to be diminished over the years as other currencies come on board as being world reserve currencies. Which some of them are, like the Chinese yuan. It's got a ways to go before it's a world reserve currency. Now, I'm showing a girl here kickstarting a motorcycle. One of the things that Trump has promised to do is help make America great again. Kickstart the economy. I know he's basically got us pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He's doing things to get us away from NAFTA and a lot of the bad trade agreements we're making. But I don't think he's going to be able to kickstart the economy by himself. And I think there's a lot of powerful forces behind him that are going to make the economy maybe not be as bad as they want to make it look. Because everything is smoke and mirrors. Right now, the economy's not that great. And when the Obama was president, they made it look as good as possible. If you look at shadow stats, I think the unemployment rate is like 23% with a lot of underemployment. Whereas, the USA, I think what they say, 5-6% or something. I forgot what it was exactly. Now, I'm going to say one thing on this channel where I'm different from all the other silver channels. And I don't think any silver channel out there presents this flag, and actually I want to present it in this fashion. Don't tread on me, like the Gadsden flag. That's basically what the Confederate issue was about. Excess government, the right to self-government, the right to taxation that will be used in your area versus, the South paying for all the taxes and going to the North. Now today, we pay a lot of taxes, and they don't necessarily go to different regions of this country. They really go to the too bigs to fail through the troubled asset relief program that we had back in 2009 and things like that. The banks are always getting bailed out. I don't think Trump is actually going to even try to make good on all his promises, although he's a hell of a lot better than Hillary Clinton. And in some ways, if Hillary Clinton got in office, well, if she ever did, fine. That would just mean the end would be getting here faster. But one way or the other. But I don't really consider it to be a collapse of the American dollar, but a readjustment of the American standard of living, which has already been going on. Behind the scenes, it's already happened because foreign goods that are cheaply made with low labor are really what's shoring up the Americans' purchasing power. Now, one thing I think is going to change drastically, and I mentioned this before, even in other videos that had nothing to do with silver, but just some kind of product videos I was buying, some products, stuff I was buying that I thought were good deals. I think that the exchange rate between the United States and China is going to change drastically during the Trump administration. Now, that's going to cause all the Chinese products to be costing a lot more money in this country. Therefore, you're going to have a lot less purchasing power. There's a thing called the PPP, the purchasing power parity, whatever thing it is. That's going to change the United States. These doom and gloomers talking about the fall of the United States completely and the fall of the dollar completely. They're flat out wrong, but it's been openly stated amongst publications that hint at what elitist policies are, that they want all nations to be on a level playing field whereby no nation is too strong to rise up against the global government, and they want to have it whereby everybody's poor and the elite run everything. So they're always telling you, hurrah, 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 everything's great. This is where it's at, just like on this picture over here. This is where it's at. In the meantime, the reality of the situation is most of America is living basically in ghetto standards. Whether they live in a country, they live in the suburbs, or they live in a city, they're either living in ghetto standards or they're in hock up to the eyeballs, and they really are one paycheck away from being thrown out in the street. That's how a lot of people are, actually. I know there's a lot of doom and gloomers out talking about some of the Edgar Casey predictions and stuff, and I don't know about that stuff. They're talking about the real doom and gloom. If something like this happened, yeah, I guess there would be I think this would, I'm not even sure about what's going to possibly be happening here globally, you know, um, with the global map, because I could say that, I'm in Florida actually, but I don't think Florida's going to, if something crazy like this happened, I don't think even where what am is going to get messed up. But there's a lot of different things, changes going on that even though, but I'm not going to hold my breath on this bullshit right now because it may be 50 or 100 years away when something like this happens, but that's still quite a ways away, relatively short period of time, and when you're looking at the ages. But every, 10,500 years or 10,000 years, we go into a new global ice age. Like this Earth has been in ice, mainly ice, not all the Earth, but most of the Earth has been under like a major ice age for 90,000 year periods at a time, with 10,000 year periods where we go into a thaw. The next time coming around, now that would actually mean that we'd be, not underwater. But the thing is, I'm bringing this up because something that happens out of the ordinary with weather changes, which I think the mini ice age is coming up, is going to greatly affect our crop production. And honestly, weather has been the major thing that has collapsed empires and economies and countries more than anything, because it affects the growing season, which affects food prices, and which affects the well-being and happiness of the masses. No matter how much technology you have, it don't matter, because if the food prices go up and the masses got to spend more and more money on food, you have a less disposable income to go around the entire economy. And guess what happens then? The economy suffers greatly, because for every dollar you're pulling out of the economy because food prices went up a lot, it has like a multiplier effect. It's like it affects retail sales, entertainment sales, vacation sales, the durable goods sales, transportation sales, and everybody tries to cut corners, just like two girls over here on the motor scooter going two up on the little 50cc motor scooter. Everybody tries to cut corners. During happy times and good times, they'd be driving in a Lexus, but since things went, doesn't mean they're happy or unhappy. But that's what I'm saying is, I think is coming up with the economy. It's not an economic collapse per se, but what it is a readjustment in the standard of living of the average American, which has been going on for quite some time. And I think it's going to accelerate under the Trump administration. Not because I'm against Trump or I think Trump's all bad or something like that. I'm not saying that. I think Trump's going to be attacked. If you remember back during Ronald Reagan's second term, October 1987 was when we had, I think it was the second biggest or third biggest crash in the stock market. The worst one was in 1929. The October 1987 crash was either second or third biggest crash in the markets. 1999 was either the other second, I forgot which one is second and which one's third, but the other big crash in the markets was 1999 when the tech boom crashed, which then they used a policy to push the money into real estate, and it created a housing boom which crashed. We're basically at the end of the rope. One area I could tell you is probably going to be good in the economy is the sales of liquor. It's kind of funny, and maybe it's not so funny, but no matter what, if the economy's good, liquor sells good. If the economy's bad, liquor sells good because people want to escape their problems. Because it's a legal drug, I guess, in a way. It's a barbiturate, whatever. One problem is that it's heavily taxed. And one thing that's really what I have against this type of stuff is that every time you buy something like this, you are paying the government a fat, healthy fee. And I think that's 99% of the problem, what's wrong with the economy, because the government is actually what puts the brakes on the economy. But if you are an investor in hard, durable goods, yes, silver is very, very good. And it has medicinal purposes. There are disadvantages to storing whiskey, but I'm going to tell you that whiskey is likely going to be far more tradable on an individual basis for other goods than silver. But not saying, but the other thing is if you drop the bottle and you break it or something, or you're tempted to drink it yourself. Not that I drink anything, but it's like, well, there you go. You just lost all your freaking potential profits. Silver's got that advantage where you don't really think about it and it just sits there. But actually, in hard tradable assets, this would be one of your best bets. Something like Tennessee whiskey. Another thing, I'm going to tell you that people are not thinking forward to also in a lot of their purchases. I've been putting out a lot of videos on just little minor products I buy because I know they're useful, like knife videos, mechanic bags, or tools or whatever. Even that Perfection 1550 kerosene heater, oil heater that I never turned on to heat once this winter, actually, which that saved a lot of money. And a lot of these goods are actually foreign made. I do buy a lot of American-made goods, but the reason I'm saying to buy some of the foreign-made goods is this. First off, the exchange rate is going to change drastically with the dollar, especially between the United States and China. Some of the Chinese products aren't really that bad. I mean, yeah, you can criticize, some of the Chinese products aren't on the standard of the U.S. made products in tools or whatever, but, Stanley tools made in China now, they're not that bad. You know what I mean? But the thing is, you can get a hell of a lot of them for a low price. I don't think you'll be able to do that in the future. The thing is, you got utility. It's a lot better than buying games. Software, garbage that you're going to throw away in a year or two. You're going to have something that you can fix your car, your motorcycle, do plumbing with, do electrical work with, put up shelves, put up, frame something and, put it together with lag screws or something really strong. You got tools that can actually do something. And that, to me, is important to do, even if they're foreign made. Now, one thing, if you're buying these things online, if that store does not have a presence in your state, they are not required to collect sales tax on the order, except for Amazon. Amazon's been doing it left and right, and I think Amazon sucks. But I'm telling you, that's a way you can immediately save yourself 6, 7, 8, 9% on buying something by not paying that sales tax. Now, actually, what you're supposed to do, I think, at the end of the year is it's called sales and use tax. You're supposed to pay the sales tax on another form of all the items you bought online, which I know nobody does anyway, But the thing is, not only are you saving yourself money, but you're starving the evil beast, the government. Because the government, actually, I don't think has got no right to freaking charge sales tax, state income tax, and the federal government's got absolutely no right to charge federal income tax. That's why they have to have that amendment to the Constitution to establish the IRS. Now, I'm telling you this because all the pennies you pull out of the government is the best thing in the world. Don't think that you're going to send some jackass politician to some place and they're going to fix everything because they're conservative or liberal or whatever the hell. The fact that you're paying this jerk, you don't even need it as much. We're way beyond the amount of government we actually need. It's ridiculous. Our country did way better when the government was literally a few percentage points the size of it is today, back in the 1800s. Now, independence is everything. That's what it is. Just like old girl here. She's independent, doesn't listen to what the other women say. God made some girls perfect. The rest he put in cars. So she rides a bike, So anyway, but one thing I want to say also that with this economy, I know I'm almost 100% certain because you can see what's going on. The liberal media, or let's call them the socialist communist media, because I'm a liberal. I mean, I'm a liberal in a true sense, not a dictator sense the way they are, but they are attacking Trump left and right, and I realize what they're trying to do. They're going to do everything possible to make his one big campaign promise look like a big dud, and that is make America great again, which he's talking about, the economy. So a lot of people are kind of like smoking packs of cigarettes, kind of worrying about this kind of shit. To me, I realize that the way around the economy is to be as independent as possible and make your own wealth. In other words, a lot of things you don't need to hire somebody to do. Even things that you've never done before, you can learn, no matter what it is. And there's always ways to save money or create more wealth with something. Because our government basically is a big con artist game. Like one you could look at is the war on drugs. You got the CIA, the money, the banks, and the prison system. Some wars aren't meant to be won. That's why our prison system's the biggest freaking prison system in the world per capita, and it's just feeding the apparatus, which is the big plantation USA government. So I think that when you're going to see people trying to pull the rug out from under Trump with the economy, but even if they're not that successful in doing it, they are going to emphasize any bad numbers they possibly can with the economy to make Trump look as bad as possible. Now, one thing with Trump, I don't put my faith in this guy. I mean, I didn't want Hillary to win, but I realize Trump's not going to be able to fix everything. No way in hell. No way in hell. He's one guy, and there's a million people behind the scenes with the big money that are trying to attack him. In a lot of ways, Trump is still pretty much hooked in with the big money himself. He's going to be pushing for bigger and bigger military. He's not getting rid of Homeland Security. He's basically putting some warmonger in charge of it or something. I'm like, gee, that's great. Who cares, man? How about we just get rid of Homeland Security? How about we get rid of the CIA? Period. I mean, even half the FBI needs to go. How about we get rid of the Drug Enforcement Agency? I mean, I never took drugs in my life. I never smoked weed once. Am I against people taking drugs? Well, I think it's bad for your health, but if you want to do that, fine. It's your problem. If you want to, it's like you can't stop anybody from doing something stupid. I mean, if somebody wants to screw up their health by getting a can of glue and sniffing it and screwing up their brains, I mean, they're going to do it one way or the other, right? Most people don't do that. But you can't stop somebody from walking off a cliff either, really. I mean, for crying out loud. So I'm against the big nanny state. And actually what I'm really for is like the old school America, as used to be portrayed on the Dukes of Hazzard. Remember that TV show? That was even though it was a corny show, and the script was pretty weird a lot of times. I like the essence of it. Actually, that's the only freaking TV series I actually have on DVD. I got all of them on DVD. And I'm actually a supporter of buying stuff from Cooters. And why? Because it represents the real America, the way America should be. The old school America. Now, I also realize, since I started putting out a lot more on the Confederacy, the Confederate flag, the Confederate cause, which was against draconian taxes, I know a lot of these other big silver blogs dropped putting my videos out there. I know they did. I'm not going to name names. There's like one left that stayed true all the while, but a lot of them dropped my videos from being on as soon as I put the Confederate flag up there. But you know what? If you're against that flag, I don't see how you're a supporter of silver. Because basically that flag, that Confederate flag, stood against the big banks and the draconian taxes that were pushed by Abe Lincoln. So, I mean, I'm the only one out here right now. I don't think anybody that is actually talking about silver actually puts out a lot about, the real causes of the South seceding from the war, which is over excess government, draconian taxes, and breaking away from the draconian big banks and government that wants to tax us to death. But, silver's all supposed to be against the big banks. Well, why are you thinking that if I put something out on the Confederate flag, I'm not doing the right thing? Really? You know what I'm saying? You see how many fakes are out there? But I could tell you there are some things, and this is one reason I swear I really, really wish we ever get another big movement in this country, we ought to get moonshine legal in this country again. Um, because not only is it, well, I know people get drunk off of moonshine and stuff like that, but it's also medicinal, and it's also something you can run fuel on your car or run fuel in your tractor, which can operate, which is for your farm produce, which can till your soil and haul goods to market and all that type of stuff for running off of fuel from the fruits of your labor. But the other thing is, it's readily cash. It's a real cash. Well, I can call moonshine. It's a real cash crop, just like vodka never disappoints. I mean, ask any Russian. What the hell would they rather have? Some vodka, or would they rather have rubles? They'd probably take the vodka because they know the vodka is going to be around a lot. It's not going to lose its worth over the years. Like as they put out that American-Russian survival channel. But like anything in the markets, it's a roulette wheel. What I think is coming up is that we have well over 95% of the markets in the world that are at or near all-time highs, which is telling me there's going to be a major implosion in the markets, which is also telling me the two metals I think that are going to take the biggest hit when that happens are palladium and platinum, especially palladium. Although I think palladium is the best investment overall, I think palladium is going to get hammered when the markets crash in this country. I don't know when, but I think it's going to be sometime in 2017. It might be coming up pretty soon. That's why I'm thinking about dumping some of that palladium and buying some land up in the mountains of northeastern Tennessee, around 3,000 feet elevation. But everything, like I said, everything's a roulette wheel. You never really, really, really know the future for certain. And if you know the future for certain, you got an illegal racket that's going on. That's really what it is. You are the casino. But in many cases, with silver, you really can't lose by having at least, say, 100 ounces of silver, easy, because the medicinal benefits. When people wake up in this country about the medicinal benefits of silver, like if you drink, like if you make, I just made a batch of more colloidal ionic silver yesterday, about a quart, and I've been drinking sometimes like 8 ounces of this stuff at a time. But it also, the combination of colloidal and ionic silver is actually extremely good because it knocks out all the bad microbes in your gut, which is 80 to 90% of your immune system. Plus, the ionic silver helps generate stem cells, which helps rejuvenate the body. That was the secret behind Dr. Robert Otto Becker, the body electric, when he was using the silver electrode at, I think it was 50 microamps, to regenerate limbs on rats. What was going on, it wasn't so much the electricity, it was the fact that those microamps with the silver was causing ionic silver to be generated right at the part where the healing needed to be done, which was in causing the body to regenerate stem cells in the exact amount needed, which was causing tissue to regrow back where normally it would be considered impossible. Now, if people realize what that stuff does, everybody would be drinking this shit every day, and everybody would need at least a few ounces of silver, and that would make all the silver supply in this earth evaporate just by American usage alone. And then you'd see the price go way the hell up. That's why I say when people wake up to what this stuff really does, not just for financial purposes, but for something more important, healing and medical purposes and longevity purposes and rejuvenation purposes. But it's not going to get around because it's not on the major media, and people aren't sitting on their lounge chair freaking getting conditioned by whatever the hell they're told is true, because there's no financial incentive to push the real reasons why colloidal ionic silver is so extremely healthy. But eventually enough people are going to get word, and it's going to make, even if financially it doesn't go up that much in value, health-wise, it's going to make you a winner. Now, I want to get on to something else, too, because I always push this Confederate flag issue here. And I want to remind people about this. See this guy here? This is Dylan Roth. I had to throw this onto your end because I say you think I'm a hater or something or whatever, with the Confederate flag, right? This is Dylan Roth. Now, you're thinking, wait a minute, isn't that misspelled? Isn't it Dylannroof? Roof, Dylan Roof with two N's on the Dylan, and it's Roof, not Roth. No, this is actually Dylan Roth with one N in Roth. He's from the UK. This is a fellow that died a few years before Dylan Roof became on the scene in South Carolina. Now, if you took a facial recognition of this guy, you'd say to yourself, he's a spitting image of Dylan Roof, except 3 years younger, and he's got the same nose, same mouth, same eyebrows, same ears, same jawline, everything. And his name is almost the same. And you think to yourself, well, you know what? It's probably not impossible what's going on here. The whole thing I think was a psych op. But then you got to realize, well, why was there a psych op? You see this picture of this guy here? I'm throwing this out here because it's like the major media, whether it's news stories or whether it's facts that they're telling you are facts that they're giving you, like with the latest, unemployment figures, the GDP, the farm payrolls, whatever's going on, or the train, the Baltic Dry Index, or how many railroad cars are moving on the train tracks. They could be fudging those numbers left and right. Now these pictures, I got to mention this in here because this is like a big psych op. You look at this guy's hand; he looks like he's holding a shot glass, right? That's what I say. Not a freaking flag, right? I'm mentioning it in this video because I just want to tell you just how that's an unnatural position to hold this flag. Now, I did other analysis on some of these other pictures, but I'm just going to show you this one. Even the way this flag is drooping doesn't make sense because it would either compare to the other one at a different angle, but that's something else. This guy looks like he's wasted. He's got hate in his eyes. I'd say he's wasted, and he's got a shot glass in his hand. These pictures are released by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is funded by George Soros. And immediately, they said this flag can't be sold in Amazon, Google stores, eBay, Sears, Walmart, Kmart, whatever, Target, whatever the hell it is. And I'm thinking, why? If he was doing something else, like yelling Allah Akbar or whatever the hell it is and killing Christians, they'd say, oh, wait a minute, you got to understand, he was just one guy. But wait a minute. This seemed to be a made-to-order event. And now, if we look, we look back here. See back here, this little flag in the mirror, we blow that up. No flagpole. We could see the stars and the stripes, the white outline, perfect. No flagpole. And I could tell you that there's other pictures that are screwed up with this deal. So I got to tell you that I think this guy was actually Dylan Roth. Didn't die in a motorcycle accident. Was brainwashed and programmed to do this shit. But there's other reasons I can go into this, but I just want to bring this out because this is one of the main publicity things that is causing people to hate the Confederate flag and make you think that it's all about what the major media is telling you it's about, whereas it's really about standing for freedom against the totalitarian, draconian, overtaxation government and the big businesses and corporations the government represents. Like I said, I'm the only freaking silver channel out here saying this kind of shit. And I emphasize it a lot because if you don't know your history, you don't know what's going on right now. And since they distorted history, they're controlling the way things are going in the future. because they got people, getting behind the wrong things to, um, think they're going to make a change. And I got to tell you right now, I realize this war on drugs is the biggest bunch of crap going. Um, just like everything else they're probably doing in the government. I personally think they ought to fire probably 90% of the government, and then we'd be doing great. We'd be doing fine. But be it as it may, one of the reasons that the economy sucks is because the more government you have, it cuts down on the amount of dollars floating around in the economy that real people that work have. In other words, I gave the example one time with local currencies stimulating the hell out of the economy. And what happened was when they put local currency into the hands of people that really work hard, the framers, the roofers, the electricians, the mechanics, the farmers, they pave driveways or whatever, they trim trees, they put in septic tanks and wells or whatever they do, right? When it went into their hands, it actually went around the economy tenfold. So if you put $1 into their hands, it makes like $10 in the economy. When the government takes out $1, it takes out $10 from the actual economy itself. That's how the government shoots itself in the foot. Then they try to find new, novel ways to take more money. But like I said, that Confederate flag was really against draconian taxes and standing free and independent from D.C. One reason, I believe in, the states having more power and getting the hell away from D.C. The only thing D.C. needs to do is protect us from, guarantee the individual liberties of all citizens in this country. Otherwise, forget it. I mean, they got no right to mess around with the environment, education, or even commerce, even regulate interstate commerce. I don't see no reason for that. But be that as it may, I think it's in the cards that D.C. is going to get wiped off the face of the map one way or the other. I'm not saying to necessarily be submerged underwater, but if there ever was a war, a big conflict, it is my strong contention that I don't think the people that are, they're going to hit the military targets, but the one real estate they probably would want out of the way would be Washington, D.C., because that is where all the treasures of the nation are that would remind people here of nationhood. They would want that eliminated. So, believe me, I'm very much attuned to the way evil minds think, and not necessarily that they would want to destroy real estate because the real estate's got value. I mean, buildings, bridges, infrastructure, electrical, plumbing, sewage systems, reservoirs, and whatever. They don't want to destroy that. But D.C. has treasures of the United States that identify all us as Americans and put us together as Americans. That, I think, if there ever was a major conflict, the foreign powers would want to destroy that country, that area, more so than New York, even though New York is the financial capital of the United States and of likely of the world, because D.C. is the symbol of the nation and all its treasures. And what do you see when you watch a news broadcast? They'll show you the nation's capital in the background, or some memorial, or Washington Memorial, or whatever. Too many unknown soldiers, Vietnam War, whatever, wall, whatever. Right? They want those symbologies. They would want that destroyed first, because that is the glue that holds the psyche of the Americans together. So, if you're actually a survivalist and you live around D.C., that's probably the worst place to live. Like I say that. I'm not 110% sure about, the coastlines being unsafe and, this area being unsafe because there's an earthquake zone or whatever the hell it is. And, I know there's a lot of freaking theories out there, but Um, Probably one of your better bets for being a survivalist if there's a serious catastrophe is in more mountainous regions, I would imagine, because for one, they're less populated. Two, the temperatures are more consistent in the summer and in the winter. I mean, they're cooler, but they're cooler summers. And there's usually a lot of abundance of wildlife and streams for fishing and things like that, and also an abundance of lumber. But as far as, you know, what most people are doing, they're probably SOL. And I think if you take any of these, um, bad scenarios to be remotely possible, if you're in the area of Washington D.C., that is one area I'm not sure so much even sure about, L.A., San Francisco, Chicago, New York area getting slammed. But D.C., I think it would get slammed for the reasons I told you. And I think that makes total sense. But just remember, you as silver holders, you have a lot in common with this rebel flag, believe it or not. I mean, it's not the cliche of the way the New York media tries to put it. Because I can tell you one thing. If you really want to know what racism is, go to New York City and deal with a New York cop as a black man. Now, I'm not a black man, okay? So I don't have to worry about that as much. But and go to South Carolina and deal with a South Carolinian sheriff or deputy sheriff. You'll figure out pretty quick who's the one that's trying to set you up more than the other guy, and who's the one that's actually trying to, just meet a quota and all this kind of crap like that. It'll be the New York City cop. But supposedly that's the city where it's, hates the South and all this kind of crap, right? You see why I'm pushing on this kind of crap? Because I can tell you one thing, man. When there's a game going on, there's a game going on from every angle, from which way, from Sunday. And I am pretty certain, as I said originally, that we're not going to see a collapse of the dollar. We're not going to see a collapse of the economy per se. I think we're going to see a rise in commodity prices, a rise in the precious metals and fuel prices and food prices and everything. But when the market collapses, you're going to see a temporary collapse of, like, especially the more industrial metals like palladium, unfortunately, which makes me think I want to dump some of that shit and get land. And what you're going to see eventually is a massive erosion of the standard of living in the United States and our purchasing power, parity. We're all going to be, it's not going to be a collapse like the drama freaks are saying. But like I said, everything they're telling you is a game and it's an illusion. Everything in the major media. And I'm going to actually tell you this at the end here because not that I'm complaining and not that I'm saying anything one way or the other, but the powers that be are trying to inadvertently slow down and strangle people like me who are independent voices because we're going against them. I've always been going against them. Even when I lived up in northeastern New Jersey, close to New York City, my favorite place was New Hampshire, to live free or die state, up in Mount Washington. I did not believe in a lot of the ways of what went on in the New York metropolitan area, except for maybe the hard work and keeping business flowing. But a lot of the liberal garbage over there, I didn't like. I didn't like it at all. But I can tell you what they're doing against even YouTubers, and I did a calculation, and I don't know if YouTube will like this or not, but I'm not going to give any numbers. But I did a calculation on how much, I don't want to say numbers or give you real numbers or anything, but with this ad block crap they got out, it literally takes, in 2011, 11,000 views would generate about the same amount of money as 100,000 views in 2017, 5 years later. And I don't know how many people kept careful statistics on that, but I've been keeping careful statistics on all this crap in the out of the Google AdSense advanced reports and putting them in spreadsheets and looking at this data. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. But I know this does not affect the really big people. So beware, because I think what's going to be coming down the pike is this. The internet is going to be something where you're going to have to pay for it, and then they'll say there's no ads because you paid for it. But just like they did with cable TV, when cable TV was brand new, oh, no commercials. Then they start sneaking in commercials. Now it's loaded commercials, and you're paying for it on top of it, and it's only major media corporate propaganda. That's the essence of what's going on with that shit. So, but either way, I got other ways I'm pulling money out of the liberal ass media's asses one way or the other, even pennies at a time. And I'm not going to say what they are, but it involves a lot of hard work. It's not something you want to actually do. And I pull little money out of the liberal ass media. They pay me some money, and you know what happens? I spend it in places like Cooters or BK, CH Cadell's or Bud K. Okay? So, I'm a fighter, and I do it a penny at a time. That's the way I do it. I can pretty much outwork any kind of freaking roadblocks they throw my way, and I will. That's all there is to it. And I know one thing. I can tell you one thing. The powers not only in the major silver channels don't like it, but also YouTube and the Google CEOs, and I know Facebook, forget about it, doesn't like any kind of good portrayal of the Confederate cause, which is actually very just in what this nation stands upon. What did we revolt for? And when this nation was formed in we first had the American Revolution in 1776. It was no taxation without fair representation. As a matter of fact, my sixth great-grandfather, before the revolution was actually on ink and the Declaration was signed into paper, in 1775, which is the same year as the Marine Corps came into being, but he wasn't in the Marine Corps. He was in the Rangers under Captain Wise's Rangers in the Battle of Moultrie, also in South Carolina. My sixth great-grandfather was in the American Revolution, and his son signed up at age 16 in 1776, and they both fought at the British siege of Charleston, South Carolina. But that's okay to say. But a couple of generations later, when they're fighting for a bigger cause against worse draconian taxes, and they're still in South Carolina fighting against a Washington D.C. government that gone rogue, they're all of a sudden they're the bad guys. And they didn't even own one damn slave. They're all privates. And out of the units that survived, you know how bad the casualties were? The 21st Regiment, which is also known as the Timminsville Minutemen, were virtually wiped out. They were rolled up into the South Carolina 8th Regiment, which my other direct descendant was in. And even with replacements, which were done over the years, because they were in since April 1861, they lost 33% at Gettysburg. And out of the entire regiment, rolled up from the 21st Regiment to the 8th Regiment, there was only 53 left when they surrendered in Tennessee in 1865. Only 53. And two of my direct descendants were survivors. And I have another direct descendant of my name from the 4th Regiment who would protect. He was the older one. He was in my third great grandfather. He was protecting South Carolina itself during the time it was being destroyed by Sherman's troops. But no, if I mention that, The big corporations and YouTube and Google and these other asswipe politically correct silver channels, they don't want to hear that shit. But I'm going to keep putting it out there because I know it's hurting me, but I don't care because I know one thing. The truth is mighty and the truth will prevail, and I'm going to fight it to the end. Tough shit.